right? I keep saying that there's something missing that comes from this equation. And I think that you hit the nail directly on the head. Where this came from is that both the cleric and the warlock, the cleric calls it a domain, the warlock calls it either their patron, or they have the other axis on their their class archetypes selection, which is the style of the pact, whether you're going the chain or the book or the weapon or whatever.
Right.
You theme your magic user, your magical power user with something, right? And it's because you've got that theme selection for clerics and that theme selection for warlock. You know, I'm not condemning the way that Wizards of the Coast has written this, because I think that when people sit down to play either one of those classes, it's a magic user that's not a wizard. It's a magic user that gets their power from something that's not them, which makes them fundamentally not a sorcerer, and it makes them fundamentally not a bard anymore, right? So this is the thing that steps you aside in the taxonomy of magic users as far as fantasy is concerned. I think that the choice to give your cleric these theme choices allows for a customizability that I think returned some chutzpah to the cleric class in 5th edition. I think people were, for a time, they thought that clerics were maybe a little bit stale when they were just disciples of the gods, you know, spouting rhetoric everywhere that they go. And so that's really good, but the piece that's missing from the two, and I think that there's one mechanical bit, and I don't mean game mechanics, I mean world mechanics, right? When you think about how the essence of your game world would play out, the separation between your cleric and your warlock is faith and belief, and specifically the fact that a religion exists that a cleric or a paladin are a part of, and a warlock has nothing to do with that. You know, and you know, that obviously comes from one, the fact that warlocks are pretty new to Dungeons and Dragons, at least as far as an explicit player class is concerned, right? One that's distributed within the basic player handbook. And your cleric comes from religious roots. Right. Previous editions of the game were much closer to having religion as opposed to just a god that you do something for or believe in, right? And where that manifested in previous versions was like you had alignment requirements for clerics and you had alignment requirements for paladins, and those are gone for 5th edition, which of course I think is a great change. I think that helped in some senses what I'm talking about with the religions being a part of the game, and the concept of having faith in a god and it being a communicated thing that your player character walks through the game world and actively promotes the case of their chosen deity, right? Because there were alignment restrictions and stuff like that in previous versions of the game, that kind of, I think, strangulated this concept until what we have now. And I think that the piece that was that got left behind when Wizards of the Coast gutted the alignment requirements from religious characters, from divine casters, where did the churches go? Where did this as a operating power in the world, right? And it should be when you go into a human settlement, or it doesn't matter, you go into a settlement, you know, instead of it simply being a grab bag of temples that we now throw in because we've got a bunch of cleric players that some of them are trickery clerics and some of them are war clerics and some of them are love clerics and some of them are knowledge clerics, and we've just got this random grab bag of topics that maybe we've got temples assigned to each of them. But like, if you look at world history and the way that religion operates in the real world, religions are powers, man, right? Like the concept of religion and the institution of churches are real, powerful, significant things. People launch wars over them, right? There's a reason why you end up finding religious battles. If you've got a more real feeling religious system in your game, it wants to be the only one. It wants to put heretics and heathens to the sword for thinking conflicting ideologies.